Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a video about the rifle that has very quickly become one of my favorite guns in my collection to shoot, and that is the Henry 22 long rifle, octagonal style frontier rifle. It's a standard lever action Henry 22 rifle, and it's been a long time since I've done a heavy amount of shooting with 22 long rifle. Typically, recently, it's been when I go out with my girlfriend to come shooting. I'll let her shoot all the 22s because that's kind of the most fun thing for her. And then I don't get a whole bunch of trigger time. And that's not necessarily intentional, just kind of always seems to work out that way. So when I got this thing in for testing, it was really, again, the first time I'd put a significant number of rounds through a rimfire. And I guess long story short, I kind of fell in love with this thing. So that may be all you need to hear to know that whether or not you want to pick one of these up. But I really think that this is a great investment for any collection out there. And if you want to see me qualify that statement, explain why, and give you a little bit more of the features of this particular style of rifle from Henry, go ahead and stick around for the rest of the video. But with all that said, let's go ahead and roll in some shooting footage with this thing, and we'll dig a little bit deeper into this rifle. So I'm going to go ahead and start working from the front all the way to the back. So on the muzzle end here, you might be able to tell we just have a standard bead front sight, basically just a little brass bead, which is sufficient for the semi or maybe fully buckhorn sights. I'm not sure what the delineation is between semi and full buckhorn sights are. But the front brass bead works well. The rest of the front of the post is notched, which helps reduce the possibility of glare. So that's a nice little bit of attention to detail. It is dovetailed in, so I'm sure there are aftermarket options available on the market. So you just have to drift this one out, put the other ones in. Or if you wanted to, I guess you could adjust windage up here at the front, but that's really not the recommended way of doing that. I'll talk more about that when we get to the back, or excuse me, to the rear sight. So up here underneath the barrel, the octagonal barrel, which we might as well show off now. It's a pretty heavy profile octagonal barrel, which I think looks good. And it also just makes this thing a really, really nice shooting gun, and also makes it take a while to warm up, which is pretty nice. But the magazine tube here underneath the barrel, it is set up to be able to take both 22 shorts and 22 long. I've only shot 22 long rifle out of this, and if you're shooting 22 long, you can get 16 rounds here in the magazine tube. Now, really quick, let me just go over how the manual describes the loading process. So if the hammer's back, you want to make sure that it's not back, because obviously there could be a live round in the chamber, and you don't want your hand up in the muzzle, really, normally ever, but especially when there could be a live round in the chamber. So you want to make sure that we're all good to go here, or at very least, we want to ease that hammer forward. If the hammer's all the way forward, you want to pull it back just so it clicks, and that's basically its half cock safe position. If the hammer is back, you'll just want to ease it, let go, and then let it go to that half cock position on its own, and I'll always double check to make sure it's there before going up to the muzzle. So just like with their other lever guns, it's a little, maybe not even an 1/8 of a turn, 1/16 of a turn, and then you can pull your magazine tube back, and you'll see that little orange follower. Once that clears, you can just start dropping rounds in. You don't want to drop it totally vertically, just to reduce the likelihood of a ground impacting the rim primer of the case in front of it. So just angle it gently so it all just slides down in there. And then, like I said, up to 16 rounds of 22 long rifle. Once you lock that back in, moving back, we have our standard wood furniture here. If you saw the all-weather Henry 3030 video I did, obviously I'd put a M-lock handguard on that. Didn't really feel it was necessary here on the 22, and it does have the barrel band as well, so that's not really an option anyway. But we have just a standard barrel band with this beautiful furniture back here. I don't know if this is actually walnut or what it is. It's probably a laminate of some sort, but it just looks really nice and complements the black finish on the barrel and the receiver really well. And it just pops. It looks really good. Speaking of popping, the engraving on the barrel for the caliber and the Henry repeating arms and all that has like a gold inlay, which again just makes it pop, makes it look really, really nice, and of course says made in the USA there on the barrel, which if you're not familiar with Henry's slogan, it's made in the USA or not at all, which I think is something we can all get behind. Moving back to the receiver, you'll notice there's no side loading gate. I hope you weren't expecting one of those, but with these Henrys, it's just that tube magazine feeding. They are doing side loading in some of the centerfire cartridges right now, but so far with the rimfire, to my knowledge, it's only magazine tube loading. You have your action. Cycling it back is buttery smooth, even with the hammer down. It just feels really tight, really positive, and really refined. And you might say, well, you know, that's because they sent you this one to review, which, if I haven't mentioned that yet, full disclosure, I did not pay for this rifle. Henry did send this to me at no cost, no money changed hands, but they did provide the rifle to me at no cost for review. So getting that out there. But before you say, oh, well, that's just because they sent you that one, they really polished it up, made sure it was good to go. Now, for those of you who have been following my channel recently, you probably know I started working at a gun store here in Eugene, Oregon. Because of that, it's allowed me to get hands-on with a lot of different 22 long rifle Henrys and even some of the other calibers. We just got in a 17 HMR Golden Boy, and it's the same really, really smooth, glassy action on all of them. So I know it's not just a sample of one. Moving on to the top of the receiver, it does have the grooves to be able to put on the rimfire specific scope rings if you wanted to do that. I don't really feel the need to do that with one of these, but if you really wanted to get the most out of the precision in this barrel, that is an option if you wanted to mount an optic to the top of the receiver. Moving back, you'll probably tell this is just one of the small loop style levers, and honestly, it works well enough. You can get this thing rip-roaring pretty quick. Even my girlfriend, who this is now her favorite firearm of mine to shoot too. Previous to this, it was my Ruger 2245 Lite, which was a Mark III because they came out with the Mark IVs right after I got mine, because of course they did. But this is now her favorite gun to shoot. Even, like, she'd never run a lever action before. After 1 or 2 magazine tubes worth of ammo, she was able to run this thing pretty quick, and I try to respect her wishes and not film her too much while she's shooting, but I might try to find if I'd snuck in some footage anywhere and cut that in, because I was really impressed to see how well she was able to pick this up and get this thing running, which, because it's a 22 long rifle, you don't need that much throw to get that cartridge clear and the next one loaded in, so you can get, like I said, get it going fast. If you want to see really fast, watch the Cowboy Action guys. Those guys are incredible. Anyway, no safety on the receiver, so no active safeties. Really, it's just that half cock. Once you put that in half cock, it deactivates the trigger, so you can't pull it. Again, that's one of the reasons they want you to do that before reaching up towards the muzzle end. Straight wrist, which, you know, we've talked about before in my 3030 review. Not a huge fan of the straight wrist, but it seems to work well in this case. It might be because there seems, I could be totally off on this, but it seems like there's more standoff between the loop and the wrist of the rifle, so I could still close it just fine. But anyway, just to let you know about that. And then here on the back, just a nice soft little butt plate. It's not super tacky, but it's tacky enough that it keeps it in your shoulder, and has Henry on the back there with their little logo. So that's kind of a really rough and quick, not so quick overview of the features of this rifle. So let's cut in some more footage, and we'll talk about a little bit more of the accuracy that I can get with this rifle.
Well, that's just adorable.
I know, right?
That's just adorable. It's like a watch. It is. It's like a finely made watch.
It's really smooth and well fit.
It really is.
And the thing is, I know that it's not just mine, because we've had a couple of those at the store, not the Octagonal ones, but a couple Henry 22s, and they all feel like that.
So precise. It's almost like a German weapon.
So before I get too far ahead of myself in regards to accuracy, I want to just put a disclaimer out there, and it's a similar thing that I said when I did the review of the 3030. I'm not a huge fan of buckhorn sights, even the semi-buckhorn sights. Just something about it doesn't really mesh well with my eyes. Not that my eyes typically like iron sights. Anyway, that being said, when I shot 5 different groups at 25 yards using 3 different types of ammo. The bulk of what I've been shooting has been Federal Value Pack 525 round boxes of 22 long rifle, nothing special. So I did my first group with one of those. Now the footage you're going to be seeing in the picture of the target is actually from last week. I meant to film this review last week, but there was another person on using the range, and out of respect for them, I didn't want to, try to film a video while they were trying to get done what they were doing. So I'll be rolling in the pictures and footage of that. The first group I did, like I said, was with the Federal Bulk Pack. It did okay, and I was shooting off a bench, so I gave myself as good of chances as I possibly could have. And as you can see, it was okay. Nothing spectacular, but pretty okay for cheap value pack ammo. Then I moved on to CCI mini mags, just because that's one of the things that I had in my trunk. And it shot, again, pretty okay. Not great, not terrible, just pretty okay. That's kind of been my experience with mini mags anyway. It's never been the most accurate load out of any of my 22s, but it always does consistently okay. Then I switched to the Fiocchi subsonic ammo, which in my experience has actually shot really, really well, hence why I have more groups of this than anything else that I shot. The first group, from what I can recollect, you guys will be seeing the picture now, was not too shabby. There was like 1 or 2 flyers, but other than that, the core group was pretty impressive. So I noticed, obviously, point of impact was low, adjusted the sights 2 ladder steps up on the rear sight, and then shot another group. That one went considerably higher, but again, you can see a really nice tight group. Again, only shooting 25 yards, but 5-round groups, not too shabby. Since that point of impact was so high, I went ahead, adjusted 1 step down on the ladder, so splitting the difference between that first group and this last group, and shot another one. Again, nice tight cluster with 1 flyer. I'm more than happy to blame those flyers on myself. With my ability to use these iron sights, not getting the most consistent point of aim possible, I'm willing to take full blame for that. I am fully convinced that this rifle can shoot more accurately than I can, at least with the iron sights. I would be interested in possibly in the future putting a scope on the top of this thing just to see how this thing will do when I can get a more precise point of aim. As experts out there have said, scopes don't make you shoot better, they make you see better. And by being able to see better, I can, at least in theory, get a little bit more precise groups. But again, more accurate than I can even hope to get with iron sights. And considering I can do 100 yards on a silhouette target, no problem with this, I can't really complain about that. Not for what this rifle's used for in my collection. Again, I can't really complain about that at all. So I want to go ahead and talk about my overall experience with this rifle. As I said at the beginning of the video, this thing has just been a blast to shoot, no pun intended. The nice thing about 22 long rifle is it's very inviting to people who are new to shooting. It's for people who are recoil or noise sensitive. It's really one of the best choices out there, especially in a rifle like this. It's going to help knock down that noise a little bit, and it gives you a much more stable platform to shoot off of and makes that recoil even more non-existent than it would have been before. So this thing has been an absolute pleasure, and on top of that, by getting back into the 22 long rifle, it's been extremely affordable to put a lot of rounds through this. I mean, at this point, just to the federal bulk pack stuff, not including the other ammo I've run through this, I'm at well over 750 rounds. And for 750 rounds of that federal bulk pack, we're looking at like $35. So compare that to the other 1,000 and 2,000 round videos I've been doing recently. Man, it feels a lot better to only spend that much money on ammo to get up to that round count. So you can really shoot all day long with this thing, go through a case of 500 rounds of ammo on this, and really not feel bad. Not to mention, it's pretty affordable to get into in the first place. Now, the octagonal barrel version, like this one, isn't their most budget line rifle for the 22s. They have some other 22s, just kind of the more basic configuration. That's going to be a little bit cheaper than this one. But even then, street price on these is usually right around $350-ish, I want to say. I know through the store that I work at, that's give or take about what our price is. I'll have to look exactly what it is. But that's right in line with like a decent 1022 now. Now, obviously, this isn't semi-automatic like one of those, but in many cases, that might not be a bad thing. So let me kind of talk about what I see this fulfilling the role of. And even before I got it, one of the reasons I wanted to test one of these is I see it as being an ideal rifle to train a kid on, as far as like their first rifle that they shoot. You know, if you have air guns before that, fine, but at least as far as first actual firearm, I see this as being perfect. And it all kind of stemmed from a conversation I had with a friend of mine who's been in B-roll on this channel before, good friend of mine. He was talking about how when he takes his kids shooting for the first time, he has to be really careful with how many rounds he puts in the mag, because their natural inclination is as soon as he says, you know, go ahead and pull the trigger, they just zip through that magazine as fast as they can. And I was trying to think, what could you do? What type of firearm could you get that you can load up a full magazine, or in this case, magazine tube, and it'll still limit the rate of fire of even a really, really excited kid. And to me, the lever action is perfect for that, because even if you load more than one at a time, by giving them something to do in between each time they pull the trigger, at least in my theory, it increases the likelihood of them actually focusing on each shot and practicing the fundamentals you've hopefully drilled into them before actually getting them onto a real rifle or firearm of any sort. And the sight setup is fairly easy to explain. Even if it's not the most precise, it's really easy to explain. Okay, you have that little U-notch, put that bead in that U-notch and aim at the target. Really easy, straightforward. Again, by giving them something to do in between, it, again, hopefully will kind of refocus their brains to, again, hopefully get them to practice those fundamentals correctly, or at least, again, that's my theory. How well that works in practice, I can't say. I don't have kids. Hopefully it stays that way for a while. But anyway, that's my theory. On top of that, it's just a really, really fun way to get out and shoot. It'll help the ammo stretch out a little bit longer. Being lever action, it's inherently slower than semi-auto. So what that means is, again, that ammo will take you longer to go through, so you can more reasonably spend a whole day shooting 500 rounds instead of just a couple hours. So if that's kind of one of the things you're looking for, then great. And also something similar I've said to a lot of the roller delay blowback guns I've shot. It's a lot more like driving a stick rather than an automatic. And I know some other people out there enjoy driving a stick more than they do an automatic, just because it makes you a little bit more of the process. And having that lever action, having something to do in between each round, really makes you feel like a lot more integral to the process that's going on, and to me just makes it a little bit more fun. And on top of that, even, especially when it comes to lever actions, I get the feeling, especially since I've started getting into them more recently with the Henry, or with the Marlin first, then the Henry 3030, and now this, it really gets you back into like a very traditional American rifle. I mean, While lever actions were really never adopted widespread by any major military in the world, they were used a lot in the frontier of the United States, and especially being on the West Coast where those frontiers were. It makes you really feel in touch with the history of where firearms were in the United States. Now, even if you live overseas, I'm sure a lot of that carries over there as well. But you know, you can't go too far watching an old Western or even looking at actual pictures or memoirs of people in the Old West and not see some lever guns. So again, it just kind of gets you to feel a part of that and help you understand how firearms have progressed and makes you appreciate more what we have now, and then also where firearms were at one point in time. Now, if you're interested in picking one of these up, as I've kind of alluded to throughout this video, Henry does have several versions of their 22s. They have a lot more of the cowboy action-oriented ones. They have the large loop Golden Boys. They have, which the Golden Boys are going to have more of that brass receiver. They have round barrels. They have all different kinds of stuff, and all kind of varying price ranges, but especially their 22s are very affordable. If you're more into 22 mag or 17 HMR, they have flavors for that as well. But if you're just looking for a really fun gun to get out and shoot affordably, man, these 22s are just a ton of fun. It's definitely not going anywhere anytime soon. My girlfriend wouldn't let that happen. So again, I just really think that Henry's doing a really good job with the firearms that they're putting out now. And again, having been in the store, I get to handle a lot more than just the ones I've directly been testing, and I see that quality being carried out throughout their entire line, and that makes me feel really confident in recommending them to you guys, my viewers. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or especially if you have any experience with any of these 22 line of Henry rifles, whether it be the Golden Boy or anything else, definitely throw those in the comment section down below. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can, and as far as those with personal experience, I enjoy having as much diverse experience in the comment section as possible so that you're not just getting my own opinion, but other people out there who have had experience with these firearms. I want to say thank you to my patrons for making a video like this possible. YouTube ad revenue is dwindling more and more by the day as they're demonetizing more and more of my videos. So the ammo that I am able to put through these rifles come directly from contributions over on Patreon. Because of that, I try to give back over there as much as I possibly can. I'm doing like weekly range updates as I'm testing firearms like this one, the AR, or the other AK I have out with me today. I do range videos for those patrons to let them know how things are progressing, give them updates on upcoming projects, and all that fun stuff. We also post all the content over there early, as well as doing live streams. We have a Discord server set up, just as much interaction as possible over there that I can do, reasonably at least. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, or you just want to financially support the channel, definitely head over to Patreon via the link down below. But anyway, with all that said, as always, I hope you got something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.